Welcome to TechQuest.
Hi everyone. Today we had a customer drop off a new Dell XPS computer that we're going to be unboxing today. The client has asked us to transfer his information from his old computer to this new computer. The new computer has a solid-state hard drive for the operating system to run on, 512 gigs, 8 gigs of RAM, but he also has a lot of pictures that won't fit on the solid-state drive, so we're going to be installing this 2 terabyte drive that he picked up from the Micro Center and also the Office 365 suite. So let's take a look. Okay, so here we have the Dell XPS tower, and one thing that you'll notice with a lot of new computers these days is they no longer have a VGA port. So instead, the video card here has a DVI. They're on the left-hand side. The middle one is a display port, which is very popular today, and of course your HDMI. So if you have a monitor like this one with a VGA connection, this obviously is not going to work. So you'll either have to upgrade your monitor to something that'll support these, or get an adapter, or connect it to some of these monitors here, like this Dell monitor here has an HDMI port as well, so you can connect to that. So when you're shopping around for a new computer, especially if you're getting a desktop and you want to use your existing monitor, you want to make sure that your existing monitor will support the new computer. The other thing you'll notice is a lot of computers will have an onboard video port, like on the motherboard here, but because this Dell system has a video card, you're going to want to use these and not these, because these are going to be disabled when a video card is put in there. So let's get this thing connected and we'll get going. Now you'll recall that the client has asked us to install this 2 terabyte drive for storage into this Dell tower. And so to do that, we're going to need to open the computer up, and the Dell XPS has this release lever here that you'll just pull out, and then this panel just drops down like this, and then as you can see inside there we have the empty drive bays that the hard drive will go into. So we're going to go ahead and put the drive in there, and then we'll be able to fire this guy up. Okay, so now we're ready to install this hard drive into this Dell XPS system. The first thing I did was there was a bracket here that I removed so that I can gain access to the wires and the drive bay here. So here's the bay, and basically to get the drive in there, you squeeze these 2 blue things here. This slides out, and then we take the drive, and you'll see that the bay has these metal like prongs sticking out, and those are designed to go into these screw holes here so that it'll hold on to the drive. And so let's get that in there now. Okay, so now we have the drive into the drive bay, and so now all we're going to do is we're going to take this and we're going to slide this right into the cage here, and it'll click once it's in there. And you'll notice the one thing that's nice is the Dell XPS here has anticipated that you're going to put a drive in there. So they already have the SATA cable ready to go, so we plug that in right there, and then we have a power cable right here, and you want to make sure that you match the notches with the notches on the actual drive. So we're going to have to flip this guy around like this so that this will fit here, and once we do that, it clicks right into place there. And then all we need to do now is just put the bracket back together, close her up, fire it up, and let's see how we do. Okay, so now that we have the drive in place here, the bracket's in place, we're going to go ahead and we're going to close up the system, and then we will be all set here. Okay, so now we got the computer put together. We have a keyboard and mouse connected, and I have connected the monitor. I've used an HDMI cable that goes from there to the monitor, and I wanted to point out a couple things here. These two ports here, where the keyboard and mouse are plugged into, you notice that the USB is black, and these USB ports here are blue. The blue basically indicates that it's a USB 3.0 style port, and that is pretty much used or primarily used for high-speed connections, like connecting an external hard drive. You'll have faster transfer rates for your data as opposed to using a 2.0. So you don't want to waste those on a component like a mouse and a keyboard because, you know, if you have the ports, you might as well use them for an external drive. So now that everything is plugged in, we're going to go ahead around here to the front. You'll also notice that this system also has USB ports in the front as well as in the back. There's also a USB-C connection here, microphone, headphone jack, and it looks like a SD card reader as well as a DVD drive here. So we're going to go ahead and turn this guy on. So we're going to push the power button here. I am not using the keyboard and mouse that came with this computer because I like to keep it nice for our clients so that they have a nice, you know, basically they can just unbox that themselves. So here we go. We are now starting up the computer, and there's a few things that Windows has us do when we go through this. Okay, so the first thing that usually happens is with every system or every brand new system is the startup screen that basically asks you some questions about how you want the computer set up. So here we go. It first says, are we in the right region? So obviously we're in the United States, so we're going to go ahead and click yes on that. Then it's asking, is the keyboard set for US? Yes. Do we have a second keyboard? No. So we're going to skip that. And then it's going to ask you if you want to connect to a network. Now, what I do a little differently than what you may want to do at home is I basically tell the computer that I don't have internet, and here's why. If you connect the computer to the internet right off the bat, it's going to want you to sign into a Microsoft account or create a Microsoft account. Now that has a benefit for home users because if you forget your password, you can go log into another system and reset it with an email address. But I like to have the customer do that themselves rather than me because I'm just a technician, and therefore I'm not going to set up a Microsoft account for my client. That is all entirely up to them because sometimes you need to use your Microsoft account to purchase programs or subscriptions from Microsoft. So at this time I'm going to basically say I don't have internet. I'm going to continue with limited setup. I'm going to of course accept the Windows 10 license agreement here. And I'm going to put my client's name in here. So I'm going to put his first name in here, and then we're going to click next. Right now I'm going to leave the password blank because again, I want my client to set this up, not me. I don't need to know their password. They can always create their password once they get their computer set up at home. So then I'm going to say yes, do more do more across devices with activity history, get help from your digital assistant, sure, why not. I keep the default settings the way they are, so I'm going to accept that. I'm just going to hit next on this, next on this, and then Windows is going to go through its setup here, basically saying hi, we're getting everything ready for you. This might take several minutes, don't turn off your PC. And we're going to pause it here so that you don't have to wait through this. Okay, we're almost there, and now we're at our Windows 10 desktop here. And so now we can connect the computer to the internet, download the updates, and then we can get our client's data transferred over. Okay, so now I've connected an Ethernet cable to the back of the computer. That's that yellow wire right there. The reason I use a hardwired connection is it is much faster to download Windows updates with a Ethernet or hardwired connection than with a wireless connection. The transfer rate is much faster and we're not waiting around for Windows to update. So I'm going to click on the start button here, click on the little gear down here in the corner, and then I'm going to select Update and Security to get my updates going. It's going to say your device is missing important security and quality fixes, so we're going to go ahead and click on Check for Updates, and there it goes. And as you can see, we have a ton of updates that the system needs, because when it's released from the factory, sometimes it sits on a shelf for a while or sits in a warehouse for a while, and so it doesn't have all the latest updates on there after it's released. So there's some updates here from, it looks like April of 2019. So when this system was built, they didn't install those updates, or sometimes they use an old image from the factory and it doesn't have the latest updates. But you always want to make sure before you get started with a new computer, always run the updates, get them all done and out of the way, so that you're not waiting when you're working for updates to finish. Because what will happen is, if you don't do this in the very beginning, you'll get to a point where the computer's going to be like, okay, I need updates now, and it's just going to go ahead and do them whether you like it or not, and it could inconvenience you, especially if you're trying to work on something. So we're going to go ahead and let these run, and then we'll check back with you in a little bit. Okay, we've done the first set of updates here, and now it's asking us to restart. So we're going to go ahead and click Restart Now, and then it's going to go ahead and restart. It's going to say working on updates, and this will probably take a little while. So Windows is starting up here. That was really fast. That's what that solid state drive is good for, getting you back up and running real quickly here. So we're going to go ahead and click on the gear again, and we're going to go ahead and make sure we got all the updates. So we're going to go ahead and click on Update Security. And as you can see now, there's a feature update that is available, and you want to make sure, if you have the time, get these out of the way, because they do take some time to process and run. So we are going to do this for our clients so that they don't have to worry about it. Feature updates usually are released every so often, like maybe every couple of months, and they do sometimes can take several hours to process. So let's get that out of the way for them, and we'll check back with you in a little bit. Okay, so now it looks like the updates are all done. Okay, so I have removed the hard drive from the client's old computer, which is right here. And what I typically do is I have what's called a hard drive dock, that I pretty much take the hard drive, insert it in here, and then on the other end of the hard drive dock here, we have a USB cable, which I will then connect to the computer and then be able to transfer the data. Now, one thing I will mention is this hard drive dock, as you can see, has a blue USB connection. That means data transfers from this hard drive dock using a USB 3.0 connection, like here in the back. The data will transfer much faster than if we typically plug it into a USB 2.0 port. So we're going to take advantage of that. That way we could transfer the data much quicker. Now the other thing is, when you take a hard drive out of another computer, typically there are sometimes screws that you will need to remove before you can just put it inside the hard drive dock. So we'll go ahead and do that now. Okay, so I've taken the screws out of the hard drive, and I've inserted the hard drive into the dock here. We're going to go ahead and turn it on. There's a switch typically in the back here, so we're going to go ahead and turn that on. We'll get a green light here, and eventually the computer will let us know that it is connecting. And so I'm going to close this window here, and we're going to open up the yellow folder here, which will show us what's connected to the PC. Now, one of the main reasons why this client has basically decided to get a new computer is if you can see his hard drive is pretty full. This customer typically takes a lot of photographs and pictures, and he has pretty much filled up this hard drive, making the old computer unusable. So I had recommended to him to install to get a new computer and make sure that he has a storage drive being able to handle the data from this hard drive. Now, if you recall, we installed a storage drive onto the computer, but you notice it's not showing up here. Now, there's a reason for that, because the drive has not been initialized. So if I right-click on this PC and I go to Manage, I can then, as soon as it comes up here, I can then install it and initialize it. So I'm going to go into Disk Management here, and it's already telling me initialize disk. You must initialize a disk before a logical disk manager can access it. So it's showing the disk 0 there, which is the one we just installed earlier. So we're going to go ahead and click OK on that. And here it is, unallocated, 1,863 gigabytes, which is roughly about 2 terabytes. Okay, so then we're going to click on the disk here. We're going to right-click on it, and we're going to say New Simple Volume. Click Next, and we're going to take all the space there. Next again, and now we're going to assign it a drive letter. So, given that this is a storage drive, we'll probably pick, we could pick S for storage. And then we'll say Next. We're going to keep it as NTFS, and we're going to give the volume a label here, and we're just going to call it Storage. Alright, and then we're going to go ahead and click Next. It's going to automatically perform a quick format, as you can see there. We're going to click Next, then Finish, and we'll wait a few seconds here. And I believe there it is. And there it is. So now we have storage S. Of course, it's empty. There's nothing there. But that is where we're going to put our client's data. So I'm going to go ahead and create a folder in there. And we're going to call it, by right-clicking, going to New Folder, we're going to call it Recovered Files. Is what I typically do when I'm transferring data from a client's older computer to a newer one. And then I'm going to right click on it, send to desktop as a shortcut, so that way the client can access the data once it's been transferred. So the next step is we're going to double click on our F drive here, which is the operating system from the old system. And now the client had stored some stuff on the root drive here, these cell through cell 725. Those, I believe, are downloads or pictures from his phone. We'll have to transfer that separately. But we want to grab this stuff under the user profile, which is in this users folder. So I'm going to double click on that. And then this DL-FISC7 is his user folder. We're going to double click on that. It's going to say, you don't currently have permissions to access this folder. Click Continue to access it. So we're going to go ahead and click Continue. This basically means, because the older system had a Windows login or a password on it, it's a protected folder. Now, if the client had turned on encryption software or had somehow encrypted the hard drive, we would not be able to do this unless we had that encryption key. So one thing to keep in mind, if you decide to encrypt your hard drive, it will make it much harder to take the data and transfer it to another system. Now, if you do a lot of traveling, you have a laptop, and there's a chance that the laptop could get stolen, then you would maybe want to encrypt the hard drive to prevent somebody from accessing your data. But do keep in mind that doing so will make it harder to transfer to another system. Now, if you have a desktop computer, it sits in your house, there's really no need to encrypt the data unless you're afraid someone's going to break into your house and steal your computer or something of that nature. But just keep in mind, that's a possibility. So we're going to go ahead and let this continue, and we'll be right back. Okay, now that we've unlocked the documents, we can now go ahead and transfer them. And so what I do is I use a program called the Unstoppable Copier, and that makes things a lot easier. And so I've already downloaded that. It's on the computer. I've put my source, which is the F drive of users, and my target, which is the recovered files folder that we had created. I'm going to go ahead and click copy, and there they go. Now the reason I use this program as opposed to just clicking and dragging them over is because sometimes there are some files that have a long name or are basically system files that won't copy, and what will happen is it will stop the copy process, and then you don't know where it left off. So it'll copy some of them over, and then it'll stop, and then like, okay, where did it leave off? And then you end up having to start all over. What's nice about this program is it will copy everything that it possibly can, and any files that it cannot copy, it skips them and moves on to the next one, so you don't have a process where it stops. And most likely the files that it skips are files you really don't need to copy over anyways, and it'll give you a list of files that it was unable to copy over, and it gives you the reason why. So anyways, we're going to go ahead and let this run, and then we will be checking back as soon as it's finished.
Well, as you can see, the data has finished transferring, so all the files have been copied. Well, we're pretty much all set now. The data has been transferred. Microsoft Office is already installed or pre-installed with Windows 10, so it's just a matter of just activating it with the card that was purchased from the Micro Center. So all you need to do is just follow the instructions on the card and you are good to go. Once we've opened up Microsoft Word, Microsoft Office will prompt you to sign into your Microsoft 365 account or activate a product key. Again, just follow the instructions on the card and you should be good to go. And there you have it for the Dell XPS Desktop system. Hopefully this was informative to you. If you have any questions or comments, please put them below. And as always, have a fantastic day. Thank you.
Remember to hit the like button if you enjoyed this video. If you'd like to see more like it, hit subscribe and feel free to comment below. Thanks for watching.